One of the biggest come ups, the biggest rebrandings that I've ever seen, matter of fact, in the history of the world, is leftovers to meal preps. My name is ChefBoyRDN. This is the ChefBoyRDN podcast. And today we are talking all about meal prepping. If you can't tell, it's the summertime. And a lot of people have a lot of questions about different tactics for weight management. And so I wanted to just kind of give you a couple episodes that address a lot of things that people do pretty consistently. So last time we talked about intermittent fasting. A couple weeks ago, I told you how I lost weight. And one thing I did want to say about that is I was able to lose 20 pounds in like 3 months. Since then, I have lost some more. But the thing for me wasn't specifically just the weight loss. I actually did it while working out. So I was gaining muscle while doing it. My point in saying all of this is whatever your weight management journey looks like, and more importantly, whatever your health journey looks like, make sure that you tailor it to the things that you want to do. Don't do what everybody else is doing. Don't do what people tell you makes the most sense, obviously, unless it's your doctor or a healthcare professional and it's for your health. Outside of that, when we talk about aesthetics and things like that, do what works for you. Set some goals, stick to them, make your own plan. Some things work, some things don't. And if you can't make your own plan, number one, that's why I'm here. Number two, talk to a dietitian, reach out to one. We're friendly, we won't bite, at least I won't. I don't know if y'all, let me move this out the way. Look at my shirt. Look at my shirt. So shout out to my sister, my brother-in-law. They hooked me up with this shirt. His sister made it. He's supposed to be giving me the name of, her business. Haven't gotten that yet, bro. But I'm sure it's coming. I'm sure it's coming. And as soon as it gets here, I will let y'all know. So before we get into my tips for meal prepping, let's kind of talk about the benefits of meal prepping. Meal prepping, in a lot of ways, is kind of the rebranding of leftovers, right? Because you are making big amounts of food and you're splitting it up over a few days' time. And that's what we did back in the day. You make a big Sunday dinner and then you ate that joint Monday, Tuesday until it was gone, right? So that's what meal prepping basically is. It is making big, large quantities of food and prepping them for yourself throughout the week so that you can save time, really, is kind of one of the biggest benefits. It definitely helps you save time. The thing about meal prepping is it's a lot on the front end, but the reward is you literally just grab something and go. And so it helps with time. It also helps to save money. Obviously, if you have a game plan and you are buying for the week, it's a lot easier to buy in bulk if you're buying for a few meals versus one meal. And so it can save money. The other thing is if you are eating kind of the same things, it prevents you from eating out. Eating out is generally more expensive now. Groceries, they playing games with us this year. And so sometimes eating out might, anyway, but it also helps with consistency. So if you have goals, going back to eating out, it's probably a lot easier to stick to your goals if you are making your own meals, knowing what's going in those meals versus going to McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, Burger King, right? It also helps to support portion control. So one of the biggest things that I get when people come to me specifically for weight management, and not oddly enough, but also people who come to me for type 2 diabetes, one of the biggest things that they talk about is really not being able to portion control like they would want to. And so the cool thing about a meal prep is you make that container and you take it to wherever you go and work or whatever. And once you're done with that container, that's it. That's the portion, right? Now, I have seen some jokes online where somebody said they just spent a whole weekend meal prepping just to eat that food all on Sunday, right? So you definitely don't want to do that. You don't want to go through container to container, but it does help you to portion it out. Other thing it does is it helps to reduce food waste because, again, if you are buying in bulk, the idea is that you are pretty much cooking off a lot of that bulk so that you have it throughout the week. This specifically, it really helps with like fruits and vegetable waste. Because a lot of times if we are cooking vegetables, especially like think about bell peppers, onions, if you're cooking that for a meal, and let's say in a world where you didn't meal prep, you don't use those things again. Well, once you cut into a bell pepper, it starts to go pretty quickly. Onions will last, but bell peppers, celery, by the third day that joint is like this, right? So that doesn't last too long. So it does help with those kinds of things. Spinach will wilt up on you in a second. And so, again, it just helps with those kinds of things. It also reduces impulse takeout. So same thing we was talking about earlier when we was talking about consistency. One of the biggest factors to, one of the biggest hurdles to weight management is hunger. And a lot of times we make rash decisions when we are hungry, right? So if I'm not super hungry and I'm leaving my office, it's easier for me to say, you know what? I'm gonna wait till I get home. I know I got something at home I can eat. If I leave my office starving and it's a bunch of different food options along the way, it's very likely that I would just stop at one of those places. So the good thing about this is you already have your meals prepared. It also helps to prioritize balancing meals. So if you out here meal prepping Pop-Tarts and ice cream, then obviously it's not going to support a balanced meal. But if you are taking the time to cook your meals and you're doing what you're supposed to do, it does help to support a good balanced meal. And we'll talk about that a little more in a second. And then the last thing it does is it reduces decision fatigue. So fun fact is, for me and my wife, a lot of times, especially when we have a super busy week, if we are cooking, generally speaking, if I'm being honest, we probably cook about 5 times a week, and then 2 days a week we'll order something, right? On those super, super busy days where we're going, because she got a lot, I got a lot, it just be a lot, we might order out a little more. And by like the third time I've ordered out, I'm over it. Like I always basically default to whatever you want to eat because I just be over it. I don't have another decision to make at that point. So it does help with decision fatigue because you already have something at the house. McDonald's is at home, right? When you're meal prepping. So those are all of kind of the benefits of meal prepping. Now, when it comes to meal prepping, I want to be 100% honest with you. For me personally, I get over it fast. I've always been like this, even from a kid. I think people think I say this from a point of privilege, and though I acknowledge that it is a privilege to be able to switch my foods up, I would love to be able to stay on foods for a little longer because that would prevent food waste, especially because I came from a big family and then I got married, and my wife came from a decent sized family as well. And so we both had to learn how to only cook for 2. And so in the beginning of our marriage, there was a lot of food waste, if I'm being honest. And I'm also a chef, so I cooked in restaurants for, hundreds. So I just didn't know how to cook small. And so leftovers, I can go day 1, I can go day 2. That's about it. That's about it for me. I can't, it gets real old real fast. And that's with a lot of things. Same thing with Thanksgiving. I can do day 1, I can do day 2. By day 3, I don't want no more dressing. I'm over it. So one thing that I do instead of meal prepping is what I'll do is I'll batch prep. So let's talk a little bit about batch prepping. Now, batch prepping is kind of a derivative of meal prepping. And what you're doing is instead of cooking a bunch of meals, you're actually making batch items. So one of the things that we batch prep often is chicken breast. A lot of times, or chicken tenderloins, and we'll season them up. We'll either throw them in the oven, saute them, put them in the air fryer, however we choose to do it. And that chicken can go for so many things. So day 1, I can eat that chicken as a straight up Sunday meal, throw a little gravy on there, or whatever I want to do, some type of potato and some type of vegetable like a sauteed green beans, something like that, right? The next day, I can take that same chicken, chop it up, put it over a salad. The next day, I can take that same chicken, get a low-carb tortilla, some turkey bacon, and make a chicken bacon ranch quesadilla. Delicious. The next day, I can take that same chicken and do a chicken wrap, right? Chicken roll-up. Next day, I can take that same chicken and do chicken salad. By that time, that chicken should be gone or, thrown away, because how many days are we at that point, right? But with batch prepping, again, what you do is you take items and you prep a lot of them, and then you can use them throughout your week. Another thing that I'll batch prep or will batch prep is fruit. A lot of times, especially in the summertime, as y'all know, right now my cantaloupe addiction is going crazy. I just got a watermelon the other day, ate that throughout the week. I just got another watermelon yesterday, about to go and cut into that probably once I get off of here. And so I just cube it all up, put it in a airtight container, and we'll have fruit throughout the week. So batch prepping is very good for that. The other thing that you can batch prep is grains typically. So rice, potatoes again. And these are things that you can use in a variety of ways. So I want you to remember that you can meal prep, but you can also batch prep as well. Now, when it comes to meal prepping or batch prepping, you cannot go into this without a plan. If you do not plan to fail. I've said this before, right? So when it comes to meal prepping, the first thing you want to do is figure out what you actually want to cook. This can start with online recipes. It can start with something that you've already made before, and you kind of figure out a way to simplify it into a meal prep. One thing that my wife used to make a lot, especially when we first got married, it was almost like a take on like Outback's Alice Spring chicken, but she would take some chicken, saute some peppers and onions, and then throw a little cheese on top and broil it. And we was able to kind of turn it into a meal prep of sorts. Again, I couldn't do too many of those throughout the week because I get over it quick. But, that was a meal that just started out as something that she would make. And then that's something that we could now kind of batch prep or meal prep, right? The next thing you want to do is look at all of your ingredients that you need throughout the week and create a grocery list. Now, when it comes to meal prepping, I recommend at least two different items, just because it does help with the fatigue of eating the same thing over and over again. Now, some of y'all are built different. Y'all are a different kind of human being. Y'all can eat the same thing over and 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 over again. I'm not that person. So for the people who can eat the same thing over, if you just want to meal prep chicken, broccoli, and rice, be my guest. But if you are like me and you like variety and you like flavor and you like just different things throughout the week, either doing a few different meal preps, like, buying some salmon and buying some chicken, or buying some ground beef and buying some turkey cutlets, buying some ground turkey and buying some fish, right? however you do it, just having a couple meats on hand. You can do the same thing with vegetables, right? So maybe I want to roast some broccoli and maybe I want to air fry some Brussels sprouts. But whatever it is, come up with your game plan. And then from there, again, look at the ingredients that you need, create a grocery list. Okay. You can typically, once you really get into it, you can get it down to getting it all done in a day, but it's very hard to shop, cook, put away all within one day. So it's probably more of a 2-day process. Whereas, let's say Saturday, Sunday, Saturday, you get your list together, you go to the grocery store and you get it. And then Sunday, you can actually prep it. Okay. The other thing is when it comes to meal preps, keep it simple, especially when it comes to balancing your meals, right? So what I mean by that is a vegetable, a protein, and some type of grain. If you stick with that, you're starting to balance your meals off the bat, right? So a vegetable, we're going to do roasted broccoli. A grain, quinoa. Some type of protein, right? We're going to do grilled chicken because it's summertime and I got time and I can throw it on the grill, right? So now we have a whole meal and you can play around with different sauces and stuff like that. But you want to have at baseline at least a vegetable, a protein, and a grain. If your meal prep does not have vegetables in it, what are we doing? What are we doing? So make sure you're adding some vegetables. Now, back to portioning. I said I'm gonna put a pin in it. I'm gonna come back to it. This is a quick little tip to help you with portioning your food, especially if you are meal prepping or batch prepping. Make a fist, okay? The size of your fist, and when I say the size, I'm talking about just the flat side of your fist, about this size, should be about the size of the grain that goes on your plate. So that could be pasta, quinoa, wild rice, potatoes, sweet potatoes. It should be about that size, okay? Same size fist to maybe a fist and a half right here, especially if you're working out. Fist and a half is fine. That's going to be about the size of the meat that goes on your meal. And then 2 fists for your vegetables, okay? So if you do it like that, basically what I'm telling you is 25% of your plate should be grains, 25% of your plate should be protein, and 50% of your plate should be vegetable. Now, it ain't got to be perfect. I would be lying to you if I said every meal was perfect, right? That I make. But the more that you get it like that, the better, especially if you're prioritizing those vegetables. So when you are dividing your meal preps, make sure you're thinking about those portion sizes. Now, once you get your grocery list in mind, once you do all of that, it's now cooking time, right? You done bought the food, it's cooking time. You want to make sure that you are being as efficient as possible, because the main thing that will kill a meal prep ain't even you getting tired of the food. The thing that will kill a meal prep is you getting tired of prepping the meal, okay? Because it can be a lot. And so the more that you can combine tasks, the better, right? So if I know that I'm cooking 2 different vegetables, but I'm roasting both of them, then I'm going to put half of one on a sheet pan on this side, half one on a sheet pan on this side. If I'm cooking vegetables in the oven and I'm baking sweet potatoes or potatoes, I'm going to throw my potatoes in the bottom of the oven, put my vegetables on the top of the oven. I know my vegetables will cook quicker. And, I'm saving time that way. If I am, listen, the air fryer, especially for meal prepping, is your best friend. So I will air fry some salmon and then I'll go back, wash the air fryer basket out. Let's not be weird. And then I'll cook some chicken, right? Time saver. The same thing with your grains. Try to stick, the things that I would vary would be the meat and the the vegetable. The grain, for the most part, I would try to maybe keep the same because it's very hard to kind of combine that with something else when you're cooking it. You want to keep the grain the same if you can. Now, if you want to vary it, you can, but it's probably going to take a little more time. And then also think about the different types of sauces if you want sauces to add, right? When things are in the oven, that's your time to do all them little things, right? Prepping your berries or prepping your fruit if you're going to have fruit, prepping your different sauces, getting the different containers ready, making sure you have containers, all of that kind of stuff. And you just want to be as efficient with your time as possible so it doesn't feel like you're spending all day in the kitchen. I used to have somebody who would come to me and she would do batch prepping, and she just was not, she just wasn't an efficient human being when it came to cooking. And so she'd be like, I read this recipe. It said it only took 20 minutes. It took me an hour and a half. And I'm like, well, did you do this and this? And she just couldn't. So there are some people who just can't. And for those people like that who need to do one thing at a time so they make sure they don't mess up anything, what I will say is just keep it as simple as possible. Okay. Now, when it comes to being organized, when it comes to safety of food, because this is very important, you got to make sure these things are right. Okay. So once you cook your food, you want it to cool down to 70 degrees within 2 hours and down to 40 degrees within 4 hours. Okay. This is the standard way to cool foods properly. This is what the restaurants use. That's why that keeps them from getting, people sick. If they doing what they're supposed to do, you shouldn't be having any foodborne illnesses from a time, temperature, safety standpoint. Well, it's the same thing at your house, okay? Sometimes we'll be a little lackadaisical with times when it comes to our house, but you want to make sure that, again, you are cooling that food down to 70 degrees within 2 hours and with down to about 40 degrees within 4 after that. Now, typically, if you go ahead, separate the food out, put it in the refrigerator, or you can leave it on the counter for like an hour, but I wouldn't really go past that too much. Divide it all up, throw it in the refrigerator. Within the time frame, it should get to that 40 degrees and you'll be perfectly fine. Okay. The other thing you want to do is label your meal preps. Okay. Label, especially if you don't have a specific day when you do it, make sure that you are putting a date on it. Or if you're putting it in the freezer, and we'll come back to the freezer idea in a second. Same thing with batch prepping. Know the day that you made it. Listen, y'all be going crazy on Thanksgiving, right? Thanksgiving Day, we'll eat the food. Friday, we'll eat leftovers. Saturday, which is now day 3, because a lot of times we cook in Wednesday night into Thursday morning. So Saturday is like day 3/4. Sunday is the last, and I mean the last day that you need to be eating that food. Now, this is just your friendly neighborhood dietitian here. I ain't in your pockets. I can't tell you how to spend your money. So if you want to go days and days and days eating that food, just know that, you might be eating that food with a little couple of his friends. It's growing friends called bacteria. So you just want to be careful. Same thing with meal prep. All right, so let's go into that. So label it. And here's a quick little guide of days that food will last in the refrigerator. So when it comes to cooked meats, and I mean land meats is the best way to say it, I guess. That's going to be about 3 to 4 days in the refrigerator. Seafood, that's going to be 2 to 3 days in the refrigerator. Grains, rice, pasta, potatoes, all of those kinds of things, that's going to be 3 to 5 days in the refrigerator. So grains, which is why I say, you can just do one grain because it'll last you that full 5 days of like a work week, right? Casseroles, that's going to be 3 to 4 days. Y'all be going crazy with the casseroles too. But just be mindful, 3 to 4 days. If you do boiled eggs, if you do breakfast prep, boiled eggs will last, or boiled eggs will last a whole week, and fruit and veggies tend to last about 2 to 5 days. It just kind of depends. For the most part, you know which fruits will last a little longer, right? Apples, oranges, things like that, that's going to last for a long time. Strawberries, we already know it's not even 2 days. Don't even prep those, just eat them. I'm just playing. You can prep berries, but just know, eat them at the first half of your week. Okay. Other thing to think about is because a lot of these things don't necessarily last to 5 days, you can always do 2 days of prep. So batch prep on Sunday to get you from through Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Wednesday make a small prep for Thursday and Friday. That's a good way to do it. So that's everything with that. Also, just as a quick tip, we talked about it earlier, but avoiding boredom, you want to make sure that you are adding sauces and seasonings and things like that. So it keeps it fresh. Like I said, going back to the batch prepping, the cool thing about batch prepping is you can make big batches of things and you can reinvent them. You know, I just told y'all how to do chicken about 6 different ways, right? So those are all the things. There is one thing I do want to say though before I get into Chef Boy RDN tries it. When you do reheat your food, you want it to reheat to 165 degrees so that you can make sure that it kills any pathogens or any things that you have. The last thing I will say about meal prep is you can throw it in the freezer. It lasts a long time in the freezer. So if you know you're trying to go the full week, maybe keep the first half of that week, Monday through Wednesday, in the refrigerator. Throw Thursday and Friday in the freezer. And then when Wednesday hits, just take those 2 out the freezer so they'll be ready for the next day. And, you know, don't just think about batch prepping or meal prepping for lunch, but you can also do it for breakfast. You could do it for dinner. You could do it for snacks. So this is all my tips on meal prepping. I hope you, if you try it, you know, let me know some of the recipes that you come up with. I think it's really cool how creative people are with recipes. They even have a Ninja come out with everything, but they got something specifically now made for meal prepping. So that's something to check out. It's expensive, but if you're really into it, that's definitely something you can check out. So that's everything on meal prepping. This week for Chef Boy RDN Tries It, I'm actually going to show you some tips or some items, I guess I should say, that I use when I am kind of batch prepping / meal prepping. But I'm going to do that while I'm trying this new snack. And this is crispy okra from Trader Joe's. Now, it's not going to always be Trader Joe's. Lately, it has been a lot from Trader Joe's. And I do want to say, I've heard everybody who has requested that I try a different type of dragon fruit. I tried the pink and white dragon fruit on my fruit episode. Me and my wife tried it. Y'all can go back and look at that episode and it'll tell you exactly what I felt about it. But a lot of people said try the yellow one, and a lot of people said try the pink one with the pink inside. And so we'll be looking for those when they come up. We'll definitely try it again. To know me, to really know me, is to know that I absolutely love okra in so many different facets. I can do it boiled. I can do it fried. I can do it pickled. I love a good pickled okra. I actually take okra fresh. Sometimes I'll do it frozen too. Chop it up, season it, throw it in the air fryer, get it nice and crispy. I'll sit down and watch a movie and eat it like it's popcorn. But Trader Joe's has taken the work out for me. So all I got to do is open up this bag and just eat it. So let's see how it tastes. Please don't disappoint me. And while I'm doing that, we'll talk about kind of meal prep. It smells good. It smells like okra. This is what it looks like. It is literally a dried piece of okra. All right. So let's see. I can get with that. Oh. I can totally get with that. This is good. And this is just okra, a little bit of oil and salt. An interesting thing is one of the types of patients that I see is patients with oil aversion. And so we talk about different ways for them to try vegetables. Trying them crispy and like this is an option, especially for kids who like very crispy items. Like they like those crispy foods, chicken tenders, chicken nuggets, things like that. Trying dry vegetables might be an option. So just something to think about. The goal is obviously to get them to eat, straight up regular vegetables if they can. But this could be a good way to get some nutrients in there. So that's just a tidbit for you. Now, you got to have some containers. Now, this is just a glass container. A lot of times I will take my yogurt and I will put it in here, and then I will do a big, like I'll wash berries and stuff, and I'll have them in a big container, and I'll just prep my yogurt in here. So in the morning, take a scoop of those berries, throw them in here, and I'm good to go. So having little glass, I think this is like a 8-ounce container. Having little glass containers like this is beneficial. If you're not scared of plastic, obviously get BPA-free plastic. But you can also do these little containers. I do a lot of these. And I have some disposable ones, but I didn't want to show that because, you just be careful with that. We trying to save the planet. But I will use these for my sauces and my different things like that. One thing that I will make for my salads is the chipotle vinaigrette. And so when I do that, I'll put it in here. Now, we got our food prep containers. I had some that come in glass, but I couldn't find them. Maybe somebody stole. I don't know. But anyway, so this is just a plastic one. It's literally just a container that you will prep your food, and then you put it in here. These are always a good thing because you can do a bunch of them. They stack on top of each other really well, so you can throw them in the refrigerator or the freezer. So just having a variety of containers is going to be crucial. Now, the last thing that I can't live without in general, but especially for meal prepping, is a scale. A lot of times, especially if I am meal prepping and counting calories, I want all of my food to be around the same amount. Now, I'm not crazy. Well, okay, let me be honest. So sometimes I will literally go back and forth to get it down to exact as possible. But for the most part, I just try to make it as close as possible as I can. You don't have to be super exact like that. Okay. So those are the things I use. I also use this. Man, I broke my scale one time. This is a new scale. I had it maybe about a year. I had a scale since before I was married. So I don't know. I probably had that scale for about 10 years. It broke finally last year. I was devastated. I was heartbroken. And because I make bread, I do, again, I measure out stuff. And then when you're making sourdough bread, it has to be specific. It's typically in grams. And so I was just using that scale all the time, and it finally broke on me. But I got a new one. All is well. The last thing I will say, no, that's all I got to say. So get a variety of containers, get you a scale, and definitely try these dried okra. All right, and now we are back for the vitamin of the week. The vitamin of the week this week is B7, also known as biotin. Now, B7 is a water-soluble vitamin, so just as a refresher, we have two different types of vitamins, water-soluble and fat-soluble. All B vitamins and vitamin C are water-soluble vitamins. All of the rest of them are fat-soluble vitamins, so just keep that in mind. Now, B7 or biotin is actually used for energy metabolism. So it helps, and it's essential for enzymes. It actually helps the enzymes that break down our food. So it's good for that. As most of my young ladies that's on here, maybe some guys too, y'all all know that it's good for your hair, skin, and nails, right? So it's good for that. It's also good for nervous system support and gene regulation. And the cool thing about biotin is, like most B vitamins, it doesn't really have an upper limit, because if you take too much, because it's a water soluble vitamin, you'll just pee it out basically. And so you don't really have to worry about taking too much. Now, they will have mega doses that you find in supplements, those supplements that are catered to hair, skin, and nails. A mega dose might be like 5,000 to 10,000 micrograms. And when it's really big doses like that, it really doesn't have a big benefit. The daily recommended dose for the average adult is going to be about 30 micrograms. So, if you're taking that, then you're perfectly fine. Now, where can you find it? It's found in cooked egg yolks. We have to say cooked because if you don't cook the egg itself, like the egg white specifically, if it's not cooked, there is something in the egg white called avidin, which actually binds to biotin, and it stops your body from being able to absorb it. So if you're trying to get more biotin in, you definitely don't want to eat a bunch of raw eggs. As a matter of fact, if you are eating a lot of raw eggs, they've actually found people who do that who have deficiencies in biotin. So it's a very real thing. You don't want to overdo it on the raw eggs if you eating raw eggs at all. I mean, what are we doing? That's gross. So it's also found in salmon, liver, nuts, seeds, especially sunflower seeds and almonds, and sweet potatoes, spinach, and whole grains. Okay. Now, deficiencies, again, are rare, but if you are, like I said earlier, eating a bunch of raw egg whites, you can develop a deficiency. Or if you are very malnourished, you can have a deficiency. And deficiencies show up with thinning hair. It also can be a skin rash, specifically around the eyes, the nose, the mouth. It can cause brittle nails and fatigue, depression, and numbness. So it's not something you want to be deficient in, but most people who just eat a diet, if you eat food in general, there's some biotin probably somewhere in your diet, and you're perfectly fine. The last thing I will say when it comes to high doses, biotin in general, especially in high doses, can interfere with specific labs. These are going to be labs that have to do with your thyroid, your tryptophan levels, and hormonal tests. So you always want to tell your doctor if you are taking biotin, even if it's just for hair, skin, and nails, because it could potentially skew your labs. And so they would need to know that. So they're not looking at your labs and being like, oh my God, what happened? Right? So that is everything on biotin. Thank y'all for rocking with me. As a matter of fact, if you have been hanging with me this long, you have officially become a sous chef. So as my sous chefs, I want to give y'all something. But in order for me to give you something, you got to do something for me first. Sound crazy, right? What I want you to do actually is help me grow my YouTube channel. So we're trying to get this message out to everybody. Nutrition is for everybody. It's very important. And what you can do is go to your favorite episode on YouTube. You can find me at the ChefBoyRDN on YouTube. Go to your favorite episode, share it however you want to share it. You can share it with a family member. You can share it to your own social media if you want to. However you want to share it, just share with somebody, get that information out. And what I want you to do is come back to that same video in the comments, type shared. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to DM you my handout for 10 breakfasts that are high protein. These are breakfasts that are 35 to 40 grams a piece and they fit into any meal prep or batch prep. So it's perfect for today. So with all that being said, let's continue to grow together. Again, be sure to share this. And if you do, go to the comments, type in shared, and I will get that information to you. I will talk to y'all next week. Y'all have a good day.